we are entering into an era of new foreign trade policy. The Honorable Commerce and Industries Minister, Shri Piyush Goyal ji, Honorable Minister of State for Commerce and Industry, Ms. Anupriya Patel ji, distinguished guests on the dais, and all the dignitaries present. A very warm welcome to the release of Foreign Trade Policy 2023. I would like to request the Director General of Foreign Trade, Shri Santosh Sarangi sir, to give the welcome address.
Honorable Minister for Commerce and Industry, Consumer Affairs, Food and Public Distribution, Shri Piyush Goyal ji. Honorable MOS, Srimati Anupriya Patel ji. Respected Commerce Secretary, Member Customs, Sri Rajiv Talwar ji, and all the invited guests. It's my privilege to welcome all of you to the launch of the Foreign Trade Policy 2023. We have large participation of media, we have large participation of export promotion councils, industry councils, and apart from the numbers which are physically present, there are about more than 500 people who have logged in virtually for this launch event. Foreign trade policy, as all of you are aware, lays down the rules and policies relating to imports and exports, and the effort is to further streamline, further regulate the policies in such a manner that India's overall exports as well as facilitation of imports are smoothened, streamlined, and made in line with the ease of doing business principle of the Government of India. I again extend a very hearty welcome to all of you and look forward to an engaging event henceforth. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your kind words. Now is the time for which we all are here today. May I request the Honorable Ministers to kindly unveil the Foreign Trade Policy 2023. Thank you so much for releasing the foreign trade policy. As the new foreign trade policy comes into force, may I now request the Director General, sir, to share with us the key highlights of it.
Thank you very much. We have a small presentation which provides the key highlights of the Foreign Trade Policy 2023. With the permission of Honorable Ministers, I'll make a small presentation. Next. This provides the outline of the presentation where I'll be talking of Indian economy and the trade scenario, the background of FTP 2015-20, the progress made since the last policy, the present FTP and its highlights, and the way forward. Next. As all of you are aware, last year our GDP growth was about 8.7%, and this year we are likely to be in the range of 7%. As all of you know, India's GDP growth has been the highest among the comparable economies, and that is why we keep saying that India is in a relatively sweet spot in the midst of global turmoil and global economic scenario. Our overall exports last time touched an all-time high of $676 billion, and as Honorable Minister had announced a few days back, we had already crossed $750 billion, and going by the trends, we are likely to exceed about $765 billion and might reach about 770 when the final figures come out. Our projected GDP growth rate for next year, that is for financial year 23-24, is expected to be about 6.5%. And India is already the 5th largest economy, and by the end of March, that is by today, our nominal GDP is expected to cross $3.5 trillion. Next. If you look at the global trade scenario, IMF has projected the world output to go down to 2.9% in 2023 and 3.1% in 24. But if you look at IMF's projection of India's growth rate, then India's growth rate is expected to be double that of global growth outlook. And this is in spite of the fact that the lingering Russia-Ukraine conflict, rising inflation, certain recessionary trend in developed economies, continuing geopolitical tension in different parts of the world. In spite of all this, India is likely to grow at about 6.1 to 6.5% as per various estimates given by different agencies. And WTO's global trade forecast for global trade growth, that is for global exports, is projecting a slowdown to only 1%. So this has to be seen vis-a-vis about 6.1% growth that we had seen 2 years back. It is estimated to slow down to 1%. Exports will remain slightly challenging, but this fact notwithstanding, India has a relatively smaller share in the global trade of about 2.4%. So our exporters should be able to leverage their exports in spite of the slow global trade outlook that WTO has projected. I'll now take you through the changes that have happened since the last policy period and the current policy period. If you look at financial year 2015-16, then our exports were 435 billion, which has now grown to 770 billion yearly, and this is almost a 75% growth vis-a-vis world growth, which is only 28%. So as you would see, compared to the world export growth, India's growth has been growing at a substantially higher pace, and all credits to our industries, our exporters, who have managed to make this happen. Next. If we look at certain sectors, there have been sectors like engineering exports which have grown at a very rapid pace. From $62 billion in 15-16, it has reached $112 billion last year. Agricultural exports have grown from 31 billion to 50 billion last year. Next. Our pharma exports have grown at 45% vis-a-vis this period of last FTP and current FTP. And electronic goods export have done extremely well, and they have grown by about 162%. And this year, this financial year, they are likely to exceed nearly 23 to 24 billion dollars of export vis-a-vis $16 billion last year. Next. Marine product exports have done fairly well, growing at 63% in this period. Toy exports, although the baseline is relatively small, is another success stories where quality certification and implementation of that has ensured 88% rise in exports of our toys. Next. As far as 15-20 policy is concerned, this was supposed to end on 31st March 2022, but because of the COVID pandemic, as well as subsequent geopolitical tension which lingered on for a long time, this was being extended, and it was extended till 31st March, till today. And in the previous policy, we rationalized a lot of export-oriented schemes by merging a lot of small schemes. You are all familiar with focus product, focus market, VKGY, all kinds of schemes which were running All of them were merged to make two umbrella schemes, MEIS and SEIS, and that rationalization was done in the last policy. But subsequent to that, the Government of India took a decision to make the policy fully WTO compatible and then discontinue these schemes and changed over to a different regime. In the meantime, India has scaled record export performances in both merchandise as well as services, and this year the exports are expected to cross 760 to 770 billion dollars. The FTP 2015 made a small but significant contribution in this entire effort. Next. There have been a lot of progress made. We have not waited for next 5 years to make the changes, and some of the changes that we have done is e-certificate of origin have been made completely online, and today to supplement our FTA negotiation efforts, we are issuing both preferential as well as non-preferential certificate of origin through the DGFT e-platform, and more than 18 lakh certificates have been issued using this platform. Similarly, IEC generation has been made completely online. You don't need any human interface for generating IEC, and this has also helped up to clean up the IEC data. Earlier we are having about 18 lakh people with IECs. Because of this exercise, we have now cleaned it up to have only 6 lakh active IECs, and this is validated against CBIC, CBDT, Ministry of Corporate Affairs and GST systems interface. Then a trade facilitation is available to each exporter and importer, and all policy updates, all changes, all statistics are available in that app. All the export promotion councils who are issuing RCMCs, they have been onboarded through a common digital portal, and entire RCMC issue is done online. During the period of COVID, we ran a 24/7 COVID help desk to ensure that the exporters don't face any of the difficulties at either exit points or anywhere else. Under the National Trade Facilitation Action Plan, we have worked with Customs Department to ensure that our commitment at the WTO is completely fulfilled, and we are working on a Trade Facilitation Action Plan for 23 to 26. Next. We have an online data exchange system with CBIC, CBDT, MCA and PFMS. We also run, we are also on National Single Window System. One of the important things that was done last year was to ensure that for all the legacy schemes, a one-time amount of 56,000 crore was approved, and that went to exporters who were struggling with all the legacy schemes for which they had not been paid. Next. The current FTP 2023 works with an approach of announcing a policy which maintains policy continuity, as well as a document which is responsive and nimble in its approach to the requirements and needs of the trade. We have continued to do policy changes from 2015 onwards without waiting for 5 years, because we wanted to respond dynamically to all the emerging situations. We have also ensured that there is no end date to this policy, because this will be changed and updated as and when required as per the needs of the trade. We also intend to incorporate feedback and response from the trade and industry to streamline and update the FTP as and when it is required. Next. If we look at the approach of the current FTP, it looks at moving from an incentive-based regime to a remission and entitlement-based regime, where remission is based on the principles of taxes and duties should not be exported, and all our exporters should get back whatever taxes and duties that they are paying, and this is a completely WTO compatible measure. Similarly, the FTP 2023 looks at a more collaborative approach and a whole of government approach, where exporters, states, districts, pharmaceutical, agriculture, all the related departments work together in a collaborative approach. We are also looking at ease of doing business to reduce the transaction cost and higher technology interface with the exporters. And there is a greater thrust on emerging areas which have a huge export potential. E-commerce export, for example, has a lot of potential. Districts as export hubs has a lot of potential, and Comet to handle high-end technology equipments also has a huge potential. So there is a renewed thrust on FTP 2023 for all these areas. Next. For incentive to remission-based regime, we have already notified RODTEP and ROACTL. In the meantime, we have widened the basket which are getting covered under RODTEP, and we have also addressed some of the anomalies which the exporters were facing. Addressing anomalies is a continuous process, and as and when we detect further anomalies in the way the RODTEP duty benefit has been given, those will be addressed in the RODTEP and ROACTL scheme. The continuation of some of the schemes which have been successful will continue, so advance authorization, EPCG, etc. will continue. Next, with substantial process tweaking. So we intend to make the approval process under advance authorization as well as EPCG fully online. Earlier, it used to take about 3 days to 1 month for different processes. Now we'll ensure that a rule-based automatic approval process is put in place where within a day the exporters can issue these licenses, revalidate these licenses, and ensure extension within a day. But for this, we have started a pilot, and upon successful completion of this pilot, we will roll it out for the entire trade. Next. We are also ensuring that fee reduction is done for MSMEs. Almost 55 to 60% of the beneficiaries are MSMEs, and from paying about 1 lakh for their licenses earlier, they would now pay only 5,000 rupees. Similarly, we are also ensuring that for extension and revalidation, the exporters were paying a lot of fees earlier. We have illustrated an example here where for a CIA value of 10 crores with 50% export obligation completion, people were paying up to 20 lakhs, 30 lakhs as fees. Now we have reduced them to make 20,000 to 10,000 flat fee, and this will also ensure not only higher saving in terms of higher payout for the exporters, it will also facilitate our online approval process. Next. For recognition of exporters, where they get recognized as 4-star, 5-star export houses, Honorable Minister had taken a meeting and had suggested that the threshold should be decreased so that they are able to use this for their own branding for the higher recognition. And keeping that in view, we are now revising the export performance threshold. So a 5-star hotel, 5-star export house would now be eligible to be recognized as 5-star with a threshold of 800 million of exports instead of 2 trillion earlier. Next. A lot of export promotion initiatives have been facilitated in this foreign trade policy. The internationalization of our INR is something that we will be working on, and under the FTP, the changes required to facilitate international trade settlement in rupee have already been provided for, and this will be taken forward and encouraged. Similarly, merchanting trade reform is something which was highly essential. All of you are familiar that third-party export is a big exporting activity in merchant hubs like Dubai, Hong Kong, Singapore, etc. Because we didn't have a clear policy on how merchanting trade will happen for restricted and prohibited items, RBI and bankers were reluctant to deal with these items. So we, for the first time ever, we are putting an explicit provision in our foreign trade policy for merchanting trade, and using this, people can, our intermediaries based in India can export commodities from a second country to a third country without touching the shores of India, and this will be applicable even for restricted and prohibited items. So this is likely to help India in making itself a big trading hub in future, and places like Gift City will actually become the right kind of places for promoting this in future. Next. We are also declaring 4 new towns as town of export excellence, and Faridabad, Moradabad, Mirzapur and Varanasi will become town of export excellence in addition to 39 towns which are already approved. This provides them the global recognition and brand credibility. This also entitles these towns and the exporters based in these towns to get prioritized approval under the market access initiative, and these places also allow some of the intermediate industries to avail benefit as common service providers under EPCG scheme. Next. Under FTP 2023, all the PM Mitra which are coming into being to promote textile and apparel exports in a big way, all of them will be eligible to get benefit as common service providers. Similarly, to promote export of dairy, we have ensured that they are exempted. All the units who have taken EPCG are exempted from average export obligation. To promote green energy, especially capital investment in green energy, we have ensured that battery electric vehicles, vertical farming equipments, wastewater treatment and recycling, rainwater harvesting system are getting covered under the reduced export obligation framework. So if a normal export obligation is 6 times of the duty saved, in this case they will have to export only 4.75 times. Special advance authorization scheme is being extended to apparel and clothing sector to facilitate prompt execution of export orders, where even if norms are not fixed earlier, they will be able to do it on a self-declaration basis and fix the norm subsequently. This will help our apparel and garment manufacturer exporters who work on a very short time frame to fulfill the orders of overseas markets, especially new fashion designs, new orders, new designs require them to fulfill this at a very quick pace. So this will help the apparel and garment manufacturers to fulfill their export obligation in a very quick time. We are also allowing self-ratification scheme to all the 2-star and above export houses. So, and subsequently they will have to ensure that they also apply under the authorized economic operator scheme. Next. As far as e-commerce is concerned, I have already told that there is a big thrust under FTP 2023 for this. All the FTP benefits will be extended to e-commerce exports. The value limit earlier was only 5 lakhs for all the courier shipments. On a per consignment value cap was 5 lakhs. It is being increased to 10 lakhs under this FTP. And after discussion and feedback with our e-commerce players, if it is required, we will either increase this limit or do away with this limit in future. We are also ensuring that IT enablement with Department of Post, CBIC will be completed in next 6 months, which will facilitate e-commerce players to avail different kinds of export benefits, and also to link up with the banking system, which will ensure pre-shipment and post-shipment credit for e-commerce players. We are also coming up with guidelines which will be incorporated in our FTPs in future based on an interministerial committee's recommendation for further facilitating e-commerce exports. And we will also do a massive outreach and training activity so that our small artisans, weavers, they get trained on how to onboard e-commerce platform and export directly. There are various estimates which suggest that our e-commerce export can grow up to $200 to $300 billion by 2030, and will create a lot of facilitating provision, including facilities for e-commerce export hubs to ensure that this aspiration of 200 to 300 billion of e-commerce export is facilitated in the next couple of years. Next. We will also work with states and districts to ensure that we provide an institutional mechanism where exporters facing difficulties at district level are also addressed. So here the DEPCs, District Export Promotion Committees chaired by collectors, will be strengthened in future, and regional officers of DGFT will henceforth be working more to address issues faced by exporters at district level and resolve these issues at district export promotion committees. We will also ensure that we work with Indian missions abroad to also promote ODOP products as well as district export hub identified products for greater export of these commodities. Next. The SCOMET, as all of you know, deals with dual use items like special chemicals, organisms, materials, equipment, and technology, which has both civilian use as well as potential military use. A strong SCOMET regime of a particular country ensures that your exporters are aligned with export control regimes like Wassenaar, Australia Group, and Missile Technology Control Regime. And if we have a good, strong regime on SCOMET, then this will also ensure that our exporters get access to high-end technologies and are able to export, both import as well as export high-end technologies to others. And going forward, policies on UAV, drones, on cryogenic tanks, on certain kind of chemicals will be put a lot of trust. As on date, we have people who have taken SCOMET license worth $7 billion, and estimates suggest that this can go up to about 50 billion plus in future, given the technological prowess that Indian entrepreneurs have. Next. We are also coming up with an amnesty scheme. I must thank Honorable CIM and the Department of Revenue for considering an amnesty scheme after a very, very long time. We had an amnesty scheme around 2011-12, but this time we have tried to make it very attractive for the exporters who have not been able to fulfill their export obligation under EPCG and advance authorization. So in case they have not fulfilled it at all, or they have partly fulfilled, then the customs duties which were foregone at that point of time will be exempted in proportion to unfulfilled export obligation, and the interest will be capped at 100% of these exempted duties. And while calculating interest, we are leaving aside the interest payable on additional custom duty and special additional custom duty. So that would ensure that a substantial saving in interest payment is available for those exporters, and using this amnesty scheme they can probably close their unfulfilled export obligation portion and start re-exporting in a much bigger manner. Next. Going forward, this foreign trade policy will be dynamic and responsive to the emerging trade scenario. As I have already pointed out, we have not given an end date for this FTP. That is just to ensure that as and when we get feedback from you, get response from you, we will keep changing this document and update this document. So if there are specific sectors which feel that this FTP probably didn't contain anything for them, need not get disappointed. The window for updating this is available on a real-time basis. So we will continue to work with you to ensure that some of the issues get addressed. A consultative mechanism to address the issues of trade and industry will be put in, and we are also involving in state and district in a bigger manner to ensure this. As Department of Commerce, we will continue to make Indian rupee a global currency and allowing Indian international trade settlement. To that extent, whatever facilitation is required in the FTP will continue to be done. Our engagement with states and districts henceforth is going to increase much more. Our e-commerce export facilitation will receive special attention as we go forward under this FTP, and our export target setting will become much more scientific and much more responsible to global trade scenario, and the ambition of reaching 2 trillion exports will be continuously 2 trillion by 2030 will be continuously followed up. As we discuss this, Honorable Minister, respected Commerce Secretary, all of them are also engaged in an exercise where restructuring of Department of Commerce is done in a manner where we are future ready, we are able to respond, we are also equally nimble in addressing various issues relating to negotiation, trade remedies, pushing up exports, facilitation measures, and all of this. With this, I thank all of you for your patience and look forward to working with you under the new FTP 2023. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for taking us through the journey and evolution of foreign trade policy, as well as the facilitating provisions of the current policy. The principles of trust and partnership with exporters will surely help us in achieving the high potential of exports. May I now invite Shri Rajiv Talwar, sir, Member Customs, CBIC, to say a few words.
Thank you, Madam. Respected Minister for Commerce and Industry, respected Minister of State, ma'am, Commerce Secretary, sir, Director General, Shri Sarangi. I thank you for inviting me to represent the CBIC and to participate in the release function of the FTP 2023. The vast spread of this document has always required synergy, coordination, and minimizing room for ambiguity between the respective positions of our department. In this FTP exercise, I'm happy to state that the DGFT has followed the time-honored best practice begun in 2015 of sharing the complete rather than the piecemeal highlighted versions of the draft policy and handbook documents with the CBIC's drawback division. There are core aspects in this policy like schemes of remission, the smooth movement across borders, as well as border control activities which the customs implement. I assure you that the field formations of the CBIC are committed to providing seamless services to manufacturers, service providers, importers, and exporters. On behalf of the CBIC, I wish success to the FTP 2023 in achieving its aims. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you so much for your kind words, sir. May I now request the Commerce Secretary, sir, Shri Sunil Bartwal, sir, to address the gathering.
So, Namaskar and good morning to all of you. Honorable Cabinet Minister, Shri Piyush Goyal ji, Honorable Minister of State, Ms. Anupriya Patel ji, DGFT Mr. Santosh Sarangi, and Member Customs Mr. Rajiv Talwar, all the heads of the Export Promotion Council who are physically present as well as who are on the VC, the heads of the industry associations, my friends from media, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm very happy to see that this policy which we had promised to you 6 months back, it has come right on dot, on the right day. And DGFT has already explained the different aspects, dimensions of this policy in detail. I hope that you find some kind of comfort in this policy. As I see this policy, I see the 5 different dimensions of this policy, and I will be talking about those 5 Ds which I feel are can be seen through this policy. So the first D which I see in this policy is the duration. So we have done away with that sunset clause, where every time, whether the policy is for 1 year, whether the policy is for 5 years, and after 5 years if it ends, then there was always a dilemma that should be extended by 3 months, 6 months, and there was a lot of uncertainty. So we have broken that uncertainty. We presume that our export sector is a sector where sun never sets, and therefore we have removed this clause. Now, as DGFT was saying, that there is no end date to this, and we will be amending this policy as and when there is a requirement, and your feedback will be taken. And in fact, you are aware that we have been holding the EPC meetings virtually every month, and perhaps that is also the reason that our exports have gone up so much, and we have been able to achieve a milestone. So this is the first D, that the duration is now, there is no end date. It will be a continuing process, and it will be continuously amended. The second D in this policy is that we are living in a dynamic world, and the policies cannot be limited to a particular period. In a dynamic world, things are happening on day-to-day basis, on daily basis. The way, if you look at the way COVID erupted, the way geopolitical situations are developing, we feel that we have to dynamically address all the issues. And we have seen supply chain disruptions. We have seen, that the merchandise trade getting affected through the change in the sea routes, change in the ports, from which the merchandise exports are moving. And therefore it is a highly dynamic world. So in a dynamic world, which is based on geopolitical changes and supply chain disruptions, we have to be very, very nimble. And therefore, I feel that this policy will be able to give you that dynamism to look at the world as it exists and then address those global issues dynamically. So that is the second D, which I feel is very important aspect of this policy. The third D of this policy is the direction. We are talking about the exports of $2 trillion by, and I think we will reach much before that, by 2030. And we are talking of not only the merchandise export, but the services exports, which is going at a very high rate, 30% rate of growth. So there is a clear direction in this policy that we have to grow, and we have a larger share to catch. And as DGFT was saying, and we have been saying in various forums, that our global share in merchandise exports is hardly 1.8%. In services, it is 4%, right? And given the size of the economy, we can always rise to between 7 to 10%. So what I feel that there is a clear direction that we have to grow. We have to grow our size, and even if there may be gloominess by several forecasts which are coming, we should not be afraid of that, and we should improve our pie. And in fact, let me tell you that not only we have been talking to you, we have been talking to all the embassies. We are talking to now our, the commercial attaches in the embassies, and today there is a meeting. So we are focusing, we are asking them that which are the areas where our exports can grow. So therefore, this policy gives a clear direction where our exports should grow. Secondly, the direction is also this, which Honorable Minister also mentioned several times, that we have to be globally competitive. We cannot rest on subsidies. And therefore, the PLI scheme, which is trying to bring in that manufacturing competitiveness within the country, our exports should be relying on that competitiveness principles. rather than on subsidy principle. So we are getting into that competitiveness mode, and we also believe that there can be a higher integration into the global value chains. So there is a clear direction which is coming out of policy that we have to move in that direction. The fourth D is decentralization, decentralized approach. In fact, 2 days we were having that G20 deliberations in the Trade and Investment Working Group, and we realized that countries like UK, they have 20% MSMEs. EU has about 40% MSMEs. India has up to 50% MSMEs. Canada has almost more than 80% MSMEs. So we have to go for inclusive growth. And for inclusive growth, the decentralization is very, very essential. And therefore you will find that we have talked about our district as export hub. Right? We have the ODOP scheme which is running very successfully. And we feel that district as export hub through the e-commerce route, and therefore you will find two very important chapters in this policy. One is e-commerce, our focus on e-commerce, so that micro enterprises, small enterprises, medium enterprises, women enterprises, there can be inclusive growth through e-commerce, and there should be a decentralized focus. So that is the 4D, which I feel comes out very clearly out of this policy. And lastly, the 5th D, and that is again very, very important. You must have seen that chapter on rupee trade. And what we are saying, that if there are countries where there is any currency failure, or they are resorting to dollar shortage, or they are having the dollar shortages or international currency shortages, we are willing to trade in rupee with them, which will take not only the exports forward but also disaster proof those countries. So we are playing the same role which the multilateral agencies used to play earlier, and we are joining hands with them, and we are telling them that here is a country where you can open rupee trade accounts, our exporters are willing, our importers are willing, and we can take this rupee trade forward. We are also focusing on the strength of our rupee payment system and our digital payment systems. You must have seen that huge amount of remittances are now coming through our digital payment mechanisms. So we are saying that we will disaster proof you. We will disaster proof these countries wherever they are facing problems, but our exports should not suffer. So we will push our exports even if it is rupee trade, even if they are facing currency issues. So I think I must congratulate DGFT that they have done an excellent job. In fact, for last 6 months we have been doing discussions with all of you, with the industry bodies, and we wanted to make it as close as possible to your aspirations and your requirements. And since this is not a document which cannot be further amended, it is not a straight jacket kind of a document, it will be amended as per your requirements, as per the needs, as per the new schemes which the government will be announcing. So therefore, I am very happy that we have been able to bring out this policy which is dynamic, which has a clear direction, which is disaster proofing other countries, which is dynamic, which is looking at the dynamic world, and which is clearly duration free. So with these words, I thank all of you for making this policy document getting released today, and I look forward to cooperation and coordination working with you together, and I'm very sure that in the coming days we will be making our exports and our export policy such that it is really able to help the whole country to grow. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir, for your inspiring words and the continuous guidance that you have provided in the entire process. May I now request the Honorable Minister of State for Commerce and Industry, Ms. Anupriya Patel ji, to address the gathering.
A very good morning, Honorable Commerce and Industry Minister, Shri Piyush Goyal ji, Commerce Secretary, Shri Sunil Barthwal, Member Customs, Shri Rajiv Talwar, and DG Foreign Trade, Shri Sarangi. Heads of Export Promotion Councils were here today, heads of our trade bodies, and all our distinguished guests and participants who are connected with us today for this very, very important occasion, both physically and virtually, and media. My greetings to all of you who are here today with us on this very momentous occasion as we launch the new and the much awaited Foreign Trade Policy 2023. My dear friends, we all know the existing FTP for the year 2015-2020, which was to end on the 31st of March 2020, was extended on account of COVID pandemic and also the various volatile geopolitical situations. However, the policy did contribute to an illustrious export performance of $676 billion of overall exports in the financial year 2021-22. And also this year we are all set to exceed the overall exports for $760 billion, and it's all because of you. So I congratulate you once again for doing so well and making India proud. And we always hope that you will make the best use of the policies that the government brings from time to time and continue to contribute to the growth of the nation. Friends, the new FTP announced today aims to bring stability, continuity, and also policy certainty for our exporters and importers who face various challenges on the global front. India has witnessed decades of policy uncertainty which has impacted its economic performance, and which is why it is very essential to have a policy which is, yes, dynamic, responding to the changing situations, which has a clear direction, which is open to amendments as and when required, and which provides a policy certainty to our exporters and importers today, and thereby allows for enhancing the growth potential of the country. The new FTP, as we have seen in the course of the presentation, lays a lot of emphasis on areas of greater trade facilitation, export promotion, and also the areas that have needed utmost attention to be able to make India's foreign trade more competitive, whether it is engaging more with the states and districts and developing district as export hubs, or the area of e-commerce, or streamlining SCOMET, or the amnesty scheme. So there are a host of factors which have been paid a lot of attention to. In all sense, the FTP 2023 is forward-looking. It is a policy which actually aims to be transformative rather than being disruptive. And it will respond dynamically to the emerging situations. We heard many of our speakers saying that we didn't wait for 5 years to make any changes which were required by exporters on account of the global challenges they face. We continue to do it, and which is why there is a change that you see from the earlier stance of having a 5-year FTP and then waiting for 5 years to announce a new policy. So now it is in a new shape, a new form, with a new approach, that whenever you need, you come with your suggestions, we'll keep taking your feedback, and the Ministry of Commerce constantly interacts with you and understands how you're performing, what are the challenges you're facing, and any time you need any changes, amendments, or subsequent revisions, we are open to it. So this is a policy, my dear friends, wherein we have tried our best to accommodate your expectations, your aspirations, and we are still open. So if you feel that there is something which has not been addressed, we are here to assure you that we will be addressing it as and when required. So let's welcome the new FTP with an open heart and make the best use of it. My dear friends, I would like to say, today we are very important period of time. This is Amrit Kal, as the Honorable Prime Minister of India calls it. We've completed 75 years of India's independence, and the next 25 years are very crucial. You remember the Honorable Prime Minister talk about the 5 pledges, the 5 vows, the Panch Pran. And one such pledge is to be able to transition India from being a developing country to a developed nation. And there is nothing that can restrain our exporters and 140 crore Indian citizens from moving towards this transition. Exports are the fundamental drivers of our economy. And you all have always made the country proud. And it is reflected in the export figures that we achieved, 760, we are going to cross. All credit goes to you, and we have to work collectively. This Amrit Kal is a golden opportunity, and we must make best use of it, and the FTP 2023 is here for you to make the best use of it and to able to further promote India's exports. I must say that today the world looks at India with a great deal of optimism. The global community wants to engage with India more and more. And India is being seen as a bright spot. India is being seen as a destination where aspirations are met. You saw the presentation, you're aware of the IMF projections. India's growth is projected to be double the world growth. This is no mean achievement, ladies and gentlemen. So this is time for us to gear up more. I know you're already doing a lot of hard work, but we have no reasons to sit back. We have to be more enthusiastic, make use of this opportunity. Government has taken several measures from time to time in terms of concluding our FTAs or promoting ease of doing business, a lot of such things, so that our exporters gain access to global markets, better integrated in the global value chains. You're able to contribute more, and your share in both merchandise exports as well as the services exports increase. So let us all pledge to work towards this bigger target of making India a developed nation and make the best use of and welcome this new FTP which is being announced today. And I assure you, with time, if you have more suggestions, we will keep accommodating our exporter friends, and we will continue to support you and facilitate you. Congratulations once again, and thank you so much for being here and encouraging us all. We have to be collective in our approach to take the country forward and march ahead to create a developed nation. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your profound and encouraging words. It really means a lot to us. Now I would request the Honorable Minister of Commerce and Industry, Consumer Affairs, Food and Public Distribution and Textiles, Shri Piyush Goyal ji, to address the gathering.
Srimati Anupriya Patel, Minister of State, Commerce and Industry, Shri Sunil Barthwal ji, Vanijya Sachiv, Shri Talwar, Member CBIC, Shri Santosh Sarangi, Director General Foreign Trade. नाम बदलना पड़ेगा जल्दी, टाइम हो गया उसका भी। ये कॉलोनियल माइंडसेट निकालना ही है ना। सभी यहाँ हम सबके बीच उपस्थित वरिष्ठ उद्योग और वाणिज्य जगत से जुड़े हुए मित्रों, मीडिया के मित्रों, हमारे साथ हाइब्रिड भी कई लोग जुड़े हैं, उनका भी मैं स्वागत करता हूं। भाई और बहनों, वर्ष का अंतिम दिन है। कई वर्षों से चर्चा चल रही थी कि फॉरेन ट्रेड पॉलिसी आनी चाहिए, जो अलग अलग निर्णय लिए उसको फॉर्मलाइज किया जाए पॉलिसी के माध्यम से। इस बार 2 या 3 वर्ष के बाद पॉलिसी आ रही है। कोविड और ये यूक्रेन सिचुएशन के कारण, लेकिन अच्छी नई चीज़ें इसमें जुड़ी हैं जिससे आगे के लिए फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी रहे। और जो आपने गत वर्षों में देखा होगा, इस सरकार में काम करने के ढंग में लचीलापन है, किस तरीके से हम रिस्पॉन्ड कर सके समस्याओं को, या जो जो परिस्थितियां पैदा होती हैं उसको हम किस प्रकार से समय समय पे उसके हिसाब से बदलाव भी कर सके। As they say, nothing is constant in life, or the only thing constant is change, and I think that's what my previous speakers all alluded to. वैसे जब तलवार साहब बोल रहे थे, मुझे ध्यान आया एक बहुत प्रसिद्ध वाक्य है, और थोड़ा गूगल करके निकाल भी लिया कि ये विलियम शेक्सपियर की हैमलेट प्ले में इस्तेमाल किया गया था। ब्रेविटी इज द सोल ऑफ विट। और मैं तलवार साहब को कह रहा था कि आप इतना ब्रीफली बोले कि एक प्रकार से रेवेन्यू का जो अप्रोच रहता है कि कम शब्दों में कैसे ज्यादा चीजें कन्वे कर देना, उसका भी परिचय हमको सबको मिला। आप सबको ध्यान होगा 6 अगस्त 2021 एक प्रकार से मैं समझता हूँ सुनहरे अक्षरों में लिखा गया वो दिन, जिस दिन माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी ने हम सबको संबोधन किया। कई हमारे मित्रों से चर्चा की जो मिशंस में थे, इंडस्ट्री कैप्टन्स के साथ बातचीत की, और शायद उस दिन जो भारत के उद्योग जगत की सोच है निर्यात के बारे में, उसमें एक अलग अध्याय लिखा गया। एक नई तरीके से सोचने का हम सबने मिलके निर्णय लिया। प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी ने जो कहा था, मैं कोट करना चाहूंगा, कंसिडरिंग द साइज ऑफ आवर इकोनॉमी एंड आवर पोटेंशियल, मैन्युफैक्चरिंग एंड सर्विस इंडस्ट्री बेस, there is a huge potential for exports to grow. At a time when the country is on the Atmanirbhar Bharat mission, one of its goals is also to increase India's share in the global supply chain and in exports manyfold. उन्होंने प्रधानमंत्री जी कभी छोटा लक्ष्य तो रखते ही नहीं है। उनकी जो सोच है वो ऑलवेज बड़ी छलांग लगाने की सोच रहती है। मैंने भी कई बार अधिकारियों से भी बात करते हुए, आप लोग से भी बात करते हुए विषय रखा है, इट इज बेटर टू एम हाई एंड मिस देन टू एम लो एंड टू हिट। एंड ऑफ कोर्स व्हाट कैन बी बेटर देन टू एम हाई एंड अचीव इट। और आप सबको धन्यवाद भी देना चाहता हूं, बधाई भी देना चाहता हूं। ये वर्ष फिर एक बार अंतर्राष्ट्रीय पटल पर इतनी सारी समस्याओं के बावजूद एक अच्छा वर्ष रहा है। मुश्किलों से गुजरते गुजरते भी हमने कल्पना की थी $750 बिलियन इस वर्ष करते हैं, तो एक अच्छा जुड़ाव हो जाता है 75वें वर्ष के साथ, आज़ादी के अमृत महोत्सव के साथ। फिर देखते देखते जब फरवरी आया तो लगा 750 के बदले 760 तक हम पहुंच पाएंगे। और आप सबके अथक प्रयासों से और भगवान के आशीर्वाद से मुझे लगता है हम उसको भी अब थोड़ा पार ही कर देंगे, और शायद 65 या 70 तक जाने की भी संभावना आंकड़ों से दिखती है। आज का दिन बाकी है, और सर्विसेज एक्सपोर्ट्स के भी नंबर्स थोड़े देर से आते हैं, पर इस सबको देखते हुए लगता है कि अगर हम हिम्मत करें और मिलके हिम्मत करें, तो मुझे लगता है कि हम में से कोई व्यक्ति एवरेज परफॉर्मेंस वाला नहीं है। ये भी कहा जाता है ना, इट इज ऑर्डिनरी पीपल who gave extraordinary results. हम में से किसी में भी क्षमता की कोई कमी नहीं है, काबिलियत की कोई कमी नहीं है, संभावनाओं की कोई कमी नहीं है। हमको अपना मन में ठान लेना है, मन बना लेना है। मन बनाना है कि हमको कहाँ जहां भी अपॉर्चुनिटी दिखे किसी को भी छोड़ना नहीं है। हर प्रकार से एक निर्यात का विस्तार हो, अलग अलग देशों में हो, अलग अलग क्षेत्र में हो। स्वाभाविक रूप से जहां हमारी कंपेटिटिव एडवांटेज है वहीं पे हम एक्सपोर्ट कर पाएंगे। जैसा कॉमर्स सेक्रेटरी ने भी कहा, और मेरे बारे में तो शायद आप सब अच्छी तरह अभी समझ ही गए कि उस सब्सिडीज और क्लचेस के भरोसे तो मैं मानता ही नहीं हूं कि कोई भी इंडस्ट्री अथवा कोई भी काम सफल हो सकता है। मेरा मानना है हमारी क्षमता बलबूता पे ही हो सकता है, ज्यादा से ज्यादा। जैसे मोटरसाइकिल को एक किक स्टार्ट करते हैं, वो मैंने तो चलाई नहीं है कभी मोटरसाइकिल या स्कूटर, पर किक स्टार्ट जैसे देते हैं, जस्ट गिव अ किक स्टार्ट, देन इट गोज एंड देन वी हैव टू चूज कि हमको हमारा बजाज की स्पीड पे चलना है कि हार्ली डेविडसन और नॉर्टन की स्पीड पे चलना है। और मुझे लगता है कि आप सबको तो आज के आधुनिक युग में सभी को और आपके अगली पीढ़ी को स्वाभाविक रूप से तेज गति से आगे बढ़ने का शौक भी है और शक्ति भी है। और आगे आने वाले दिनों में अवश्य जो एक्सपोर्ट की कल्पना है वो इस देश में बदलेगी। जिस प्रकार से हमारी सोच बदली है वैसा ही आंकड़े भी बदलेंगे। मैं कुछ डिटेल्स निकाल रहा था, पिछले 10 वर्ष में एक्सपोर्ट्स अभी अभी निकलवाए हैं किसी को भेज के। जब डीजीएफ की प्रेजेंटेशन दे रहे थे तो मुझे ध्यान में आया कि इसमें और एक रहस्य भी छुपा हुआ है, और ये आपके समक्ष इसलिए रख रहा हूं कि आपको और प्रोत्साहन देने के लिए। अगर माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी ने मन बना ही लिया था अगस्त 2021 में, जब आप सबके समक्ष आए थे, हम आजादी के अमृत वर्ष में प्रवेश करने जा रहे थे 15 तारीख को। 15 अगस्त 2021 से हमने आजादी का अमृत महोत्सव मनाना शुरू किया। उनका मन तो शायद बन ही गया होगा कि भारत को अब विकसित देश बनाना है, वी हैव टू मेक इंडिया डेवलप्ड नेशन। उसी के हिसाब से उन्होंने हम सबको मार्गदर्शन भी दिया। और उनको ये पीड़ा थी कि कई वर्षों से हमारा जो निर्यात है वो लगभग फ्लैट चल रहा था। मैंने 2010 से 20 लगभग 10 वर्ष के जब निर्यात के आंकड़े देखे तो एक रेंज बाउंड आंकड़े थे, बहुत ज्यादा छलांग कभी नहीं लगी। ज्यादा से ज्यादा जो हाईएस्ट गया था वो 2017-18 में $499 बिलियन और 18-19 में $538 बिलियन। दैट वाज द हाईएस्ट नंबर वी हैड अचीव्ड गुड्स एंड सर्विसेज मिला के। उसमें भी स्प्लिट अप चाहिए तो 18-19 में $330 बिलियन गुड्स था और 208 सर्विस। उन्नीस 20 में भी लगभग फ्लैट रहा। उस वर्ष फरवरी मार्च में कोविड की समस्याएं सामने आने लगी थी, तो आप लोगों ने मुझे समझा बुझा दिया कि भाई मार्च में हमारे आंकड़े कम हो गए। फरवरी मार्च में तो 538 से घट के 527 हो गया, $527 बिलियन। और उसके बाद कोविड का वर्ष आया, उसमें फिर घट के 498। तो लगभग जहां से शुरू हुई थी कहानी वहीं पे आके हम खड़े हो गए, 499 to 498 और 3। तब प्रधानमंत्री जी ने हम सबको संबोधित किया। ये मैं इससे याद दिला रहा हूं, ओनली फॉर ईच वन ऑफ अस टू रिफ्लेक्ट कि हम में क्षमता तो ऑलवेज थी। मुझे लगता है नीडेड द प्राइम मिनिस्टर टू कम एंड पंप अप आवर एनर्जीज एंड आवर एंथुजियाज्म। और देखिए उसके बाद क्या परिवर्तन आया। आपने आंकड़े तो देखे ही, 2021 में 498 या 500 के आसपास पकड़े तो 500 से 676 बड़ा छलांग हुआ। थोड़ा बहुत पोस्ट कोविड पेंटअप डिमांड का भी लाभ हुआ और सब मुझे बोलने लगे कि अब जरा ज्यादा टारगेट मत रखना, यूक्रेन का कॉन्फ्लिक्ट भी शुरू हो गया था 1 साल पहले। सब में थोड़ी एक आत्मविश्वास में कमी दिख रही थी और मैंने कई फोरम्स पे, और शक्तिवेल शायद एक व्यक्ति थे हमारे फियो के चेयरमैन जिनका आत्मविश्वास कभी कम नहीं होता था, जो पूरे जोश से हिम्मत से कहते थे कि नहीं हम 750 तो पक्का पार करेंगे और दोनों में हम ग्रो करेंगे, मर्चेंडाइज में भी और सर्विसेज में। एंड आई एक्नॉलेज एंड थैंक यू शक्तिवेल जी फॉर योर लीडरशिप ऑफ आवर सेक्टर। और आप सबके प्रयासों से इस वर्ष 750 तो पार हुआ, शायद 760 भी पार होगा, यानी 13-14% ग्रोथ एग्रीगेट में। किसको ऐसा ना लगे कि हमने कुछ छुपाने की कोशिश की है तो ये भी कह दूं कि गुड्स में भी अच्छा ग्रोथ है आज की अंतर्राष्ट्रीय परिस्थितियों को देखते हुए। सर्विसेज में तो बहुत बड़ी छलांग होने के आंकड़े दिख रहे हैं। और जो मैंने दूसरा एक चार्ट रखा था मेरे सामने, जब प्रधानमंत्री जी ने 6 अगस्त को हम सबको संबोधन किया तो हमने एक रोड मैप बनाया था जिसके बारे में मैं कई बार जिक्र कर चुका हूं कि $1 ट्रिलियन गुड्स और $1 ट्रिलियन एक्सपोर्ट्स हम 2030 तक करेंगे। याद है ना? ये तो कोई भूलना नहीं भाई करेंगे। उस समय एग्रीगेट इस वर्ष का 772 बिलियन एक्सपेक्टेशन, और मेरा मानना है हम लगभग उस लेवल तक पहुंच जाएंगे जब तक फाइनल आंकड़े सब SEZ, EOUs, सर्विसेज सबके आंकड़े आएंगे। मे भी गुड्स में थोड़ा कम रहेगा, सर्विसेज में थोड़ा अधिक रहेगा, इंटर से थोड़ा बदलाव दिख रहे हैं। पर जो 2 साल पहले, लगभग 19 महीने पहले बनाया था टारगेट, हम उस दिशा में ठीक चल रहे हैं। ये मैं आपका आत्मविश्वास बढ़ाने के लिए शेयर कर रहा हूं और उसी के हिसाब से आगे के आंकड़े भी हम सब ने मीट करने हैं। और यहाँ पे अधिकांश जो मित्र बैठे हैं वो मर्चेंडाइज एक्सपोर्टर्स हैं, इससे मैं जरूर कहना चाहूंगा कि हमको गुड्स में थोड़ी और मेहनत करनी पड़ेगी। कहीं ऐसा ना हो कि 2030 आते आते सर्विसेज के 1 ट्रिलियन के भी आगे पार चले जाए और आप पीछे रह जाए। 2 ट्रिलियन तो हम कर देंगे 2030 तक, उतना तो मेरा आत्मविश्वास पक्का है। पर मैं चाहूंगा कि आप सब भी थोड़ा और विचार करें। मैंने डिपार्टमेंट को भी कहा है कि अगले 5 महीने हमारा G20 की प्रेसिडेंसी भी है। 15 अगस्त 2023 को आज़ादी के अमृत महोत्सव का जो लगभग 75 हफ्तों का एक पूरा कैंपेन था या सेलिब्रेशन था, वो भी पूरा होने आ रहा है। तो अब विभाग आप सबसे चर्चा करने वाले हैं एक मैसिव फोकस्ड कॉन्सेंट्रेटेड आउटरीच विश्व के साथ अगले 4-5 महीने में हम मिलके करें, जिसमें भारत से सेक्टोरली अथवा कंट्री वाइज, मल्टी इंडस्ट्री कंट्री के हिसाब से या सेक्टोरली, हम छोटे बड़े ग्रुप्स में बड़े पैमाने पे लोगों को मिशंस की सहायता के साथ, और सभी मिशंस इसमें एंगेज होने वाले हैं आप सबके साथ। डॉक्टर जयशंकर ने भी इंस्ट्रक्शन दिए, माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी ने भी कहा है कि सभी मिशंस की जिम्मेदारी रहेगी ट्रेड, टेक्नोलॉजी और टूरिज्म, और अब इन्वेस्टमेंट को भी उसके साथ जोड़ रहे हैं। उस पर विशेष ध्यान देने की, जो इन्वेस्ट इंडिया है उसको भी हम नए रूप में, नए स्वरूप में अब पेश करने वाले हैं, जो ट्रेड और इन्वेस्टमेंट दोनों को एक बॉडी देखेगी, क्योंकि बोथ आर क्वाइट इंटरकनेक्टेड। जब ट्रेड होगा उसके बाद ही इन्वेस्टमेंट आने की संभावनाएं भी बढ़ेगी। कोर मैन्युफैक्चरिंग और एट द ग्राउंड। और मुझे लगता है जिस प्रकार से हमने इवॉल्व किया है भारत की इंडस्ट्री को, तो जैसे एक जमाने का बजाज और आज का आधुनिक बजाज जो अंतर्राष्ट्रीय स्तर के मोटरसाइकिल्स बनाते हैं, जो पूरे विश्व में प्रसिद्ध है, जो पूरे विश्व में एक्सपोर्ट होती है, ये जो बदलाव भारत की इंडस्ट्री में आया, कहाँ फिएट कार बनती थी और आज हमारी गाड़ियां बड़े पैमाने पे एक्सपोर्ट होती है। संभावना है कि लगभग 1 मिलियन कार्स तक हम एक्सपोर्ट कर पाएंगे। ऐसे जब संभावनाओं से भरा हुआ हमारा देश है, हर क्षेत्र में संभावना है। एग्री एक्सपोर्ट्स आपने देखे कैसे प्रगति कर रहे, उसमें मरीन की पोटेंशियल बहुत बड़ी है। ऐसे ही सेरामिक्स हो, इलेक्ट्रिकल प्रोडक्ट्स हो, इंजीनियरिंग गुड्स, पर्टिकुलरली ऑटो कंपोनेंट्स, उसमें स्टील बहुत अच्छा कर रही है। सर्विसेज का तो जितनी तारीफ करें उतनी कम है, पोटेंशियल भी आगे अच्छा है। तो मुझे लगता है हम सब अगर मिलके इस कॉन्फिडेंस के साथ आगे काम करते हैं, और नवरात्रि अभी भी हमने सेलिब्रेट किया है, कल रामनवमी भी हुई है, तो मुझे लगता है कि हम सब ने मिलके ये ठान लेना चाहिए आज कि अब भारत और भारत का उद्योग, भारत का व्यापार, भारत का सेवा क्षेत्र अब हार्ली डेविडसन को भी पार करने के लिए तैयार हो गया है। इस आशा, अपेक्षा और आकांक्षा के साथ मैं आप सबको पुनः एक बार एक अच्छा वर्ष आप सबके नेतृत्व में हुआ, आप सबके काबिलियत से, आप सबकी मेहनत से हुआ। और इतना ही कहूँगा अंत में कि हम जब यहाँ से आज उठें तो ये सोच के उठें, जो प्रधानमंत्री जी ने भी शायद 15 अगस्त को ही कहा था, यही समय है, सही समय है। दिस इज इंडियाज मोमेंट, लेट्स नॉट लूज इट। ऐसा ना हो कि आज से 1 वर्ष बाद हम फिर मिले 31 तारीख को और तब आप लोग कहें कि काश मैंने शुरुआत 31 मार्च 2023 को की होती, तो शायद मैं और आगे जा सकता। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
Thank you, sir. We are extremely grateful for your visionary leadership and insightful words. To conclude the event, I would now like to invite Shri S.C. Agrawal, sir, Additional DGFT, to present the vote of thanks.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Department of Commerce, I would like to thank Sri Piyush Goyal ji, Honorable Minister for Commerce and Industry, Consumer Affairs, Food and Public Distribution and Textiles, for his valuable time for launching Foreign Trade Policy 2023. Sir, your vision of export promotion through enhanced partnership with the stakeholders and trade facilitation through automation and simplification has been our guiding light in the making of this FTP. With new emerging areas like e-commerce and districts as exports hub in focus, we are confident to exploit their true potential for increasing our exports. I would also like to express my sincere thanks to Madam Anupriya Patel ji, Honorable Minister of State for Commerce and Industry, for gracing us with her presence. Your words of encouragement have inspired us to strive even more to realize the full potential for our trade and especially exports in this Amrit Kal. I would like to especially thank Sri Sunil Barthwal ji, Commerce Secretary, for his guidance in setting the FTP. My sincere thanks to Sri Rajya Talwar ji, Member Customs, CBIC, for being an integral part of this event. We work in close coordination with customs as they implement the policy at customs borders. A big thank you to export promotion councils and trade associations for immensely contributing in making this FTP a reality. Your participation and support have been invaluable, and we hope to continue our fruitful partnership in the future. I would also like to thank our friends from print and electronic media for their coverage of this event. Your support is essential in disseminating the policy not only to various stakeholders but also to people at large. Last but not the least, I would like to thank officers of Commerce and DGFT who have worked hard in various capacity to organize this event and make it successful. Their tireless efforts have made this event possible, and we are grateful for their hard work. My special thanks to Anjali, our young officer trainee, for conducting this event. Our young officers will be instrumental in shaping our future endeavors. Thank you all, sirs, and ladies and gentlemen, kindly join us for high tea.